Welcome back to Christo's Cafe for another video. So I've actually been in the process of redoing my office, which is why you've got a little bit of a different perspective today. But you know, with the recent nerfs that have come out for Skellige, the third time around, I felt obliged to put out a video. So here we are today, taking a little break in the reorganization of my office, and let's go through some of these SK Nerfs. We'll also touch on the Patricidal Fury deck I posted a couple days ago. Obviously, with the changes, that deck is going to change a little bit. So I'll run back through that and just show you guys kind of what I put together. I played a few games with it. I mean, it feels fine. I don't know that the nerfs are enough to really stop a lot of these SK decks, but we'll take a peek. And we'll go through all of that as well. So hopefully you enjoy this video. If you do, please hit the like button below. Hit the subscribe button so you continue to get updates for my newest videos that come out. So CDPR put out 6 nerfs today. 6 nerfs. So Patricidal Fury, we'll just jump straight into this, was actually the first one. So that has gone from 16 provisions to 15 provisions. I think Patricidal Fury was honestly the easiest jump for people, right? They went from Second Wind, jumped into Patricidal Fury. The deck changed a little bit because you get the automatic activation of a lot of the Bloodthirst types of keywords. So with that, that became just the automatic go-to. So a little quick nerf to that makes a lot of sense. Again, I'm not sure 1 point's going to make a big difference, but 1 point there plus a few other things will kind of even stuff out. We're going to come back to Wild Boar at the end. Blacksmith. So let's take a look. Ironically, I did this purposely. We've got these guys next to each other for a reason here. The Syndicate Blacksmith is profit 1, fee 1, boost an allied unit by 1. This one is just automatic, right? It is an order, but you get a charge whenever you play a warrior. Arguably, this is easier to activate than the Blacksmith because you're probably spending your coins on other stuff. This guy, though, was actually 4 provisions. He just got dumped up to 5. So here's the thing about the Blacksmith. I still think it's a very good card. The problem is he is auto removal central here, right? You play the Blacksmith, he dies, or you pretty much lose the round. If you're playing into a long round, this guy easily plays for 9 or 10 points potentially, and off of 4 provisions is really rough. Him dying when he's at 4 provisions is usually a fair trade, right? You're usually at least trading on even, tourney joust, something like that, or they're even trading up because you're using something like Parasite or whatever because you absolutely need this guy to die. Changing him to 5 provisions, now it just feels bad when he dies right off the bat like that. So it makes it a little bit more awkward in this case because him dying just really feels bad. I think on Blue Coin, I think if you're going first and you're going to throw tactical advantage on him, I think he still can win you the round. I think he's a great proactive play. You dump tack advantage on him, you feel really, really good. I think going second, you drop him, he gets stunning blowed, he gets tourney jousted, he gets boiling oiled, whatever the case may be. I think that just feels really, really bad. In my Patricidal Fury deck, I only played 1 of him. I think I might stick with that and keep him in the deck. I definitely wouldn't play 2. And if you're looking for proactive plays, the boats might be a better option here than the Blacksmith. But I think overall, I still like this card. I still think it can win you rounds. I think for 5 provisions and lowering the Patricidal Fury provision cap, I think it makes it a bit more difficult to include, but I'm going to continue to still run 1 of this guy. Next up, we have Stunning Blow. We have Stunning Blow. 4 provisions, 4 damage. If he has armor, increase damage to 6. So we took 1 down from 7. It is now 6. I think that's interesting. I think it makes it more in line with the other cards out there. 6 is still a very good amount, though. If you're thinking Dunka, if you're thinking Herkia, if you're thinking any of those Patience cards that are 4 and 1, it kills them right off. Even the Phantom for monsters that gains and boosts itself comes out to 5 and 1 the turn after you play it, so Stunning Blow just gets rid of that. Handles the Frigate as well. So in reality, I think this is fine. I think this is just kind of how it's going to play out. I don't think that's going to change anything. I think you're going to still see it in pretty much every deck. Something interesting somebody brought up to me was One-Eyed Betsy. One-Eyed Betsy's deploy is essentially the same thing. It's 10 provisions. You're getting 4 points out of it. So even if you compare it to One-Eyed Betsy that you're seeing a little bit more often in the meta, a little bit more, like this is still not a good card compared to Stunning Blow because you're still doing 6 damage for 4 provisions, which I think is just fantastic when you're talking about armor. So I think Stunning Blow stays. Blood Eagle, which I think is one of the biggest problems. Okay, I'm going to take that back for a second. I do not think Blood Eagle is necessarily one of the biggest problems right now. I think what actually made it so much better is our buddy Vabjorn. I think the rework they did to this guy, making him a tutor for raid cards, really made Blood Eagle over the top because it gives you another opportunity to draw it. It's an echo card. With Bloodthirst 3, which again in a Patricidal Fury deck, for example, automatically happens. In a deck with, you know, you're talking your Longships, you're talking your Herkias, your Heralds, your Berserkers, all those pings. You're gonna end up activating this, and it's gonna activate to pull any warrior from your deck. So you're grabbing that, and in this Fury deck we're talking, you're grabbing Hemdall, you're grabbing Herald if you haven't, you're grabbing Madman, Skjordal, you're grabbing the whole top half of your deck, which I think is absolutely huge. So I think that's a big aspect of it. Bumping it by 1 provision, I mean, it stays in the deck. I think what happens is, you know, with Fury's nerf, I think what happens here is that essentially that causes a 2 provision difference now, right? You're losing 1 for Fury, you're losing 1 on Blood Eagle. Harold goes from 6 to 5. Harold has gone through many small steps to make him a little bit more under control. They added the Doom. They removed the piercing damage. Now they've made him 5. 5 essentially has him removed by more or less anything. At 6, he's a little bit more awkward to remove. At 5, your Boiling Oil takes care of him. Just about everything you can think of handles him at 5 versus 6 being a bit more awkward. So he's just been a little bit more, just a little bit easier to kill. You're seeing him die more and more often, to be honest. Where you were seeing the issue was with Second Wind when it could pull Herald back. Obviously nobody was killing him because you didn't want to see him twice. Now that you don't have that option because Second Wind got nerfed, can only bring back bronze, you're going to see Herald die more often. It is natural for him to just get whacked. You can't play him as proactively because he just dies. So you have to think a little bit harder about where to play your Herald. I mean, point value wise, right? He's easily getting you your 11 provisions worth. He's bringing back, you know, a variety of different cards. If you're thinking about most warriors, you're thinking about him pulling back a Raider for 6 points. 7 points plus 2. 6 points plus 2. So you're looking at him bringing back for 8 points. The Invader 7 points. Like, it's not too complicated an affair. Herald's going to stick around. Slight bit easier to remove. Having trouble fitting this all into your new Patricidal Fury deck that got nerfed? No problem, because Wild Boar will save you 1 provision. So this is weird now. This is weird because they did remove 1 provision. So it went from 12 to 11. Up here, you're going to see the 3 points, though. It went from 4 to 3. I'm like torn on this one. The Wild Boar, you don't care about the points so much, right? You care about the deploy. Damage all damage units by 1, then enemy units by 1. In a long round with a lot of cards, you're going to get your value here. In a short round, and a lot of times you're going to see Skellige pushing round 2 because they have the golds, they have the bronzes, they just have good cards. So they don't feel bad pushing in round 2, but that means maybe you have a 3, 4, 5 card round 3. A 5 card round 3 with Wild Boar, with all the other control in your deck, Wild Boar's probably hitting for like maybe the 4, 5, 6, let's say. That's 9 points for 11 provisions, so that doesn't quite feel right. So I think what you may actually see, because right now I kept Wild Boar in the Fury deck, there is going to be some interest in possibly dumping him. We haven't seen Morkvarg as often. We might see Mork a little bit more instead of Wild Boar, so we're going to have to take a look and see where the value is there. I don't think Mork gets as much value as we'd like, but Wild Boar we might see happen a little more often in round 1. If you go and play a 7 and 8 card round 1, this Wild Boar gets its value. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think Wild Boar, the other reason it's almost an auto-include in most of these decks is because For Patricidal Fury at least, when you go and you drop the damaged units, Wild Boar just wipes them right off. So your leader is essentially 11 points now by playing the Wild Boar. It makes it tougher to hit its provisions. I still think it has a place in most decks, so I don't think this is going to change much, but it will help you get under your provision cap. So those are the 6 nerfs. I think the little baby nerfs each time kind of make things a little bit more awkward for Skilliga to put together a solid deck. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's much of a challenge. I went in here and I made a few quick changes to just get back under the cap because I was actually at -1 here when I logged back in, right? Because they took one away from Fury. Wild Boar evened it out, and then they added one to Blood Eagle, so you're actually under by 1 provision. So what I did have in this deck was the boats at 5, right? So we had 2 longships in here. And then we also had the... Where did we have it? The raiding fleet at 7. So what we ended up doing here is just making a few little minor changes. So we actually ended up pulling out both of the ships and the raiding fleet. We just threw Skjall in at 7 provisions because he's just... points, right? Just slam those points down. And then we popped in a couple villagers. Because I think having the Drummond villagers in here, just still good value, right? You're still talking about 7 points. Typically, you're going to drop them next to your Invader. You can drop them next to your Berserker. You can drop them next to the unit that comes out of your Totem. So you've got lots of options there to get value out of her. So that's what I've done right now. Sorry, I was 2 provisions under because the Blacksmith also bumped up. So that was the second provision I needed to come back with. So I made just a quick snap decision here. I made that change. I don't think we need another raid card in the deck, to be honest. You've got War of Clans, you've got 2 Stunning Blows, you've got Champion's Charge, and you've got Blood Eagle. So you don't necessarily need the raiding fleet raid-wise, though again, 7 for arguably at least like 9 or 10 points is probably pretty good. So there might be down the line an opportunity to get that back in. Maybe War of Clans is just not as good. Maybe pulling out the Raiders might be a better option. So I'm going to continue to play with this deck. I thought I would just quickly run through the changes that I have made here versus what I put out in my last video. Hope you enjoyed it. I know it was just a quick kind of run through of what's going on, but at least this way you get a little bit of a feel for the nerfs that just came out. 3rd time around, we're seeing them again. I still think Skilliga is going to be good. I think it's still early in the season though, so a lot can still happen. I think you're going to see more and more decks come out and counter some of those shortcomings that you're now going to see out of the SK decks. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I stream Tuesday, Thursdays, and alternate Saturday, Sunday. So check me out on Twitch. I will throw all of that in the description below. Hit me up on Twitter. Let me know if you're liking these videos or not. And until next time, have fun with your Skilliga decks.
Oh, what a lovely tea party.